this is going to be the first video on one of the actual topics. Let's open these up. And the first one I think I want to touch on is language learning. As we go through these, you'll see a pattern. There is no single topic here that kind of exists in a vacuum. They're all interconnected. And I think it's probably the same for you. Like most of the things you like and the topics you're interested in are connected somehow, right? Tangentially, but they're connected. So, and that's the case for me as well. So let's kind of go through that. I'm going to go ahead and actually just reorganize this a little bit. I made this for the channel intro. We don't need that anymore. So I'm going to just take these topics. I'm just going to rename this topics. Let's put this somewhere at the top. We can get rid of this. That's fine. Okay. And I want to focus just on language learning for now. So let me just kind of move things around here a little bit. Specifically, I want to focus on Japanese. That's the language that I'm most interested in. It's the language I'm currently learning. I've studied some other languages in the past, but due to the previously mentioned ADHD, it's been difficult to kind of stick with them. But the one that I've had the most success with over the years is Japanese. It's the one that I've kind of come back to again and again because there's a reason for me to come back to it. And that's because I just really like anime and manga. If you could see, I've got a big stack of manga that I need to get through, and part of that we're going to actually put in here because I need some way to use that to practice. So let's see here. So what I really want to think about is like, where am I going next? What are my goals? That kind of a thing. Or maybe goals is not even the right way to describe it. It's more like, what's my next checkpoint? So let's just do some of that. So for example, where am I? Currently, I am on vacation from Japanese classes that I started this year. So I am, let's say it's level, the way that this school kind of grades things, they have like different levels. I don't actually remember how many levels there are. It's like 20, 30, I have no idea. But anyway, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to be starting level 2 next month. So let's put that there. Japanese class. And then there is this interesting situation where my skill, so for example, if I want to break this down into spoken, written, and reading skills, I'm actually a little bit better than you would expect for someone in level 2 when it comes to reading. For example, for the written tests, I do pretty well on them. So to me, that indicates that I'm at a higher level than at some of these other skills. And that's clear because my last spoken exam was pretty awful. So I need to focus on that. Let's see, what could we do here? We could, actually, let's get rid of this. I like breaking it down into the different areas instead of like just putting everything in one vague bucket of level something or whatever. So ultimately, there is a goal. The next immediate goal is level N5, which if you know anything about the way that Japanese is kind of graded, I guess, if you needed some sort of a proficiency test, there's the JLPT, which has these different levels, and that lets you kind of know approximately how proficient you are at the language. So N5 is absolute beginner. You can do some very basic things, and that's the goal. So there's a series of vocabulary, grammar points, and functions that you should be able to achieve in the language, like presenting yourself and counting things and ordering things at a restaurant, that sort of thing. So that's kind of how they group these N levels. N5 is the first one, and that's the goal, the next immediate goal. Where am I actually on all these? Probably N5, somewhere within N5. And what I actually want to focus on most, though, is the spoken language, because I think in the written language and in the reading, let's change this a little bit. To what do I want to focus on? Because that's really what I want to do here. What I want to put here is, like, what am I actually doing for each one of these skills? I think that makes more sense. Review my previous oral exams, and then for the written, I want to practice all the hiragana, if I could spell. So those are just The Japanese has, you could say, 3 alphabets. Hiragana and katakana are like the 2 that are closest to the English alphabet. So there's a set number of sounds, and you can produce, or you can write down all the sounds using just those 2 alphabets. And there's also a third one, which is kanji, which are all the very complicated Chinese characters. But at this level, I just want to focus on hiragana and katakana because I am terrible at remembering them. I can read them very well, very quickly. But when it comes to writing, I'm pretty awful. Reading Japanese for me is kind of my strength. I don't want to let that just kind of sit there. I would rather keep pushing on it because it's my strength. So it's kind of something to motivate me. So I could set, let's say, something like make it a habit to read. Let's be ambitious here. Let's say 1 hour a day, Monday through Thursday, because I can't really do it. On Friday. Saturday and Sunday is also a little bit complicated, but I think that's probably enough. 1 hour a day is fine. I could probably find some way to add a bit more reading time, but that seems fine to start. I think one of the important things for me is one of the things that I've learned from setting goals and trying to stick with them is that the more ambitious and big they are, the more daunting they are, the harder it is to start them, and the more likely I am to ignore them. So the smaller they are, the more likely I'm actually going to start them. The difficulty for me is getting started. I don't know if that's the case for you, whether you can just tell yourself, I need to do this thing, like studying, or you need to work on a project, or you need to change the car's oil, or whatever it is, and you just make yourself do that. It's kind of difficult for me. I have a list of things that I know I need to do. Sometimes I can do them if they're interesting, but if they're not, or there's something more interesting in front of me, I'll usually do that. So that's kind of a problem. And one of the ways that I kind of get around that is by making tasks really simple, breaking them down basically. So instead of saying I want to reach a certain level in the language by such and such date, which is maybe like kind of a more recommended way that you might see online, or some of these productivity people on the internet talking about how do you set goals? Well, they got to be actionable and they got to be concrete and you got to set dates and all that. And that definitely works, but it doesn't work all the time and it doesn't work for everyone and it doesn't work for all the goals. So my approach right now, I think, is just keeping things as simple as possible. If I need more structure, I add it, versus going the other way around, which is where I start with like a very concrete goal with a lot of stuff in there, and then I try to stick to it. That generally doesn't work. And because it's not for school, like this is a personal goal, I can kind of play with that. If it was for an exam where I needed to pass because I needed a certification to get a job or to keep my job or whatever, that would be different. In this case, I can keep it pretty simple. So let's just keep going. So the next question for me is, how do I actually turn these little notes into something actionable for me? I could either put them in a calendar, put them in a to-do list, put them in an app, reminders, a bunch of different ways to do it. One of the ways that I want to try and consolidate all these different activities and tasks that I want to focus on is by putting them in one single place and making it stupid simple to follow, because the more complicated the system is, the more likely I am to not do it. So let's do that. Let me zoom out for just a moment. I want to keep them in here. So I'm going to do something like, I don't always like to call things tasks because that makes them very like defining the thing before you even have the thing. So they have to be tasks, otherwise they don't go in here, but whatever, I'll just call it tasks. And then a system that I've been using that seems to be working pretty decently is I'm just going to make like little buckets for each day. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then I'm going to put a little, we'll call it like an inbox. It's going to be just anything. I just somewhere to put like all the notes and things where I'm not sure where they go, but they've got to go somewhere. Otherwise I'm going to forget them. So I'm going to put them in here. And it's just one simple place to check. So I'll just put it there. Okay, so we've got items for each day and then an inbox. Now, the reason why I kind of did that is because, like I said, I want to keep things really simple. One of the ways that I can do that is by making sure I do the same things, or roughly the same things, every day of the week. So every Monday I can have a thing I do. Every Tuesday I do the same kind of a thing. And that just makes it simpler if I just give it themes. That makes it a lot easier for me to stick to one single thing, because I don't know if it's the case for you, but I jump from one thing to the next all the time. And if I get distracted, I will definitely do that. So one of the ways that I set guardrails on myself is to just say, today is such and such day. That's kind of the theme. Otherwise, it's very likely that I'm just going to jump on the next exciting thing and completely ignore what I was supposed to be doing. So what we can do now is I want to review my previous oral exams, which, like I said, awful. I got really nervous doing them. So I would like to blame my nerves and not my knowledge, but it's probably a combination. So what I'll do is, let's say today is Monday. I can do that today. Let's put something in here just to help me remember that I need to review. I can just make this a regular thing. Review previous, if I could spell, previous Japanese exams. Okay. And that's just a thing that I'm going to do on Monday, every Monday. I'm going to add a little emoji here. I don't know if that's going to show up on the recording or not. Probably not, because it's part of the Mac operating system. So yeah, just a little emoji here to remind me that this is a thing that repeats every single week. It's not a single task here. So on Monday, I want to review the previous Japanese exams. This is also going to make sense once I get back to Japanese class next month. This will still be relevant, so that's fine. And then these I probably want to also turn this one into a repeating thing, because it's going to take a while for me to get the hang of it. It's not one of those things you just do once and then forget it. The next day. On Tuesday, I will practice the 2 Japanese alphabets, and I can just, whenever I feel comfortable, I've kind of gotten the hang of it and confident that I can do my exams and I don't need to keep looking up all the random characters that I forget, then I'll just get rid of it. And that will not be a thing that I do on Tuesdays anymore. And then the third thing, this one I do want to make just a regular habit, like I said, from Monday through Thursday. So we're just going to turn this one into read some manga, man. And I have way too many series that I need to get through. I might share a picture of that at some point. It's just way too many series that I need to get through. So we'll do that, and I'll add it for every day of the week that I mentioned, all the way to Thursday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, just give me my free days. Hopefully I'll get into the habit of it, and then it'll just become a regular thing, and I won't need to put it in here. But for now, as it becomes a habit, I'll put it in here and use this. Okay, good. Yeah, goals N5. That was just a bit of review, so that's fine. That's it for now. There are a bunch of other things in the language learning in Japanese world that I want to talk about and share. Right now, I'm just trying to get myself set up. There is nothing else in here. I'm going to do it with you step by step, and not always in real time, but you'll be able to see how it's taking shape, what's working for me. I'll explain why it's working or why it's not working or why I've changed things. And hopefully you'll be able to pick up some things, try some things, see if it works for you. Like I said, just use whatever you like. This is what makes the most sense for me because I'm the most familiar with it. And I've tried a bunch of things, and we'll also touch on that at some point in some other videos. So yeah, just something I wanted to do right now. Let's just start with that. And yeah, that seems pretty good. So I didn't want to make this video too long. I want to try and keep these kind of short so they're easy to digest, and I can group them by topic. You can go through the series of videos, pick something up that you can apply to your life. So I think we'll just leave it there, but basically let me just describe what I'm planning on doing right here. So for each day, I just want to put all the activities that repeat. I talked about topics or themes, but for now we'll just keep it simple and put the different activities here. And at some point I might want to put them all on a single day and just, this is the study focus day, or whatever. Right now I'm just spreading them out like that. And I'm also setting up an inbox where I can put just random things that come to mind, topics for videos, topics that I want to focus on, ideas that I will develop later on or whatever. And you'll see that as I do another video or other videos, and you can see how we sort those and how they become videos, and it'll be pretty interesting. I think it'll be quite enjoyable to see somebody actually do that. So at least hopefully watching me go through them will give you some ideas about, oh, he's, that guy's a moron. There's a way better way to do this, right? And you can share that with me in the comments, and I will promptly ignore you, or I will take a suggestion. So yeah, let's just keep topics down here, and this list will grow over time, and I'll add new things. So yeah, just wanted to get started with something, show you how I'm setting this up. And like I said previously in the intro video, this is an iterative process that's going to change, but for now, we'll just keep it simple. So if you'd like to see how I continue this process and completely mess up my schedule and become very frustrated, and you can laugh at me in the comments, be sure to subscribe and actually drop a comment on what you'd like to see next. So I will see you in the next video.